News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Oh, Kamala did her big speech today. She introduced price controls on grocery prices. She introduced a $25,000 down payment paid for by all of us for first-time home buyers. Here's a little bit of her sampling.
Our country has come a long way since President Biden and I took office. Many Americans don't yet feel that progress in their daily lives. Costs are still too high. As president, I will take on the high costs that matter most to most Americans, like the cost of food. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today than it did before the pandemic. Ground beef is up almost 50%. I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gauging on food.
Okay, well, it is such a bad idea that the New York Times and Washington Post have absolutely destroyed this idea and ripped it to shreds. I'll give you the details on these columns written today in these news stories. Here's the headline from Washington Post today. Kamala Harris price gouging proposal, a terrible idea. And it gets worse as you read the column. I'll share highlights in a little bit. New York Times says most economists say these forces increase customer demand by fuel. They say price fixing increases customer demand by fueled by stimulus from the government. That's the consumer demand that made inflation. Stimulus. Kamala and Biden. Kamala was the tie vote twice, pumping $2.3 trillion into our economy. She literally is personally responsible for the casting the tie vote and passing $2.3 trillion in two separate giveaways that destroyed inflation. And in fact, the Wall Street Journal reporting that in 3 years, in the entire administration of Kamala and Joe, they spent twice as much as Trump did. And remember, Trump had the pandemic. That was his reasoning for spending all that money. Whether you agree with it or not, there was a once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-ever possibly pandemic, well, in our lifetime event. And they doubled his spending. And they didn't have a pandemic. They are wholly and fully responsible for this inflation. And I went over a 2.5-page editorial that was damning and all about facts and statistics and numbers and everything with the Wall Street Journal. I can share highlights both with you. I probably will, again, tidbits. But this is going to destroy the supply of food. It will producers that can barely make anything right now with the high fuel prices, the diesel and the gasoline prices are so high because of Kamala and Joe shutting down the spigot on oil production and their incredible regulations that farmers can barely afford to pay for feed for their cattle and for fertilizer for their growth. We took a call from a North Texas farmer who said that just last night. I'm sure we'll hear from more. Their prices, if they get lower, they will not produce. One of the farmers who called in last night said, I can barely afford to make anything right now. I will not produce crops and I will not produce cattle because I will then be losing. So no, that's not going to work for me. Number two, the grocery. This is shocking. And I'm literally quoting, I believe, the Washington Post, one of the most liberal papers in the nation, if not the most liberal. The grocery margin, the profit margin is 1.4%. They actually said 1.6%. So how are they price gouging when their profit is 1.6%? Why is Kamala not going after Apple today, whose profit margin is 26%? What is this? You go after the 1.4, not the 26%? Isn't that strange? Apple's probably one of the biggest contributors of companies in the country, if not, period, but for Democrats like her. Now, the other thing is $25,000 toward housing. Every economist today reported that this will literally drive up the price of houses. The more starter homes for younger people, or whatever, for people that are just starting out, it'll drive up the prices of new home sales or home sales for that bracket by $25,000. It's literally going to reflect the new price. They're going to increase the house knowing that you are going to pay 25 grand. It is going to happen. And the buyer is going to get that 25 grand and the price is going to go up. Number two, more people will be buying houses, which will increase the demand for housing, which will decrease the supply of housing, which will make housing prices go higher. Kamala is doing a great job. Hey, it's 4 more years of Bidenomics. Kamalanomics. Kamalanomics. Okay, so I would like your thoughts on this. How do you think price controls at the grocery stores would end up working out? And who do you think would benefit from 25 grand for first-time home buyers on a down payment? Because guess what? I'll tell you right now, I could not afford the home I live in. So if you want to give me 25 grand towards it, I still could not afford the home I live in that I bought 10 years ago. I still could not afford the home. Because 25 grand doesn't even begin to make up for it, because you know what it really is? It's your budget, your monthly budget. And how much is a new mortgage now? When Trump left office, it was $1,700 a month. Now it's $3,300. So Kamala's going to throw chump change for your down payment, and you still can't afford to pay that house. In fact, two economists from Fox Business today, one of my favorite is Charles Payne, whom I personally call C-Payne. And C-Payne said today that he said today that this is going to put people, it's going to recreate the housing crisis of 2008, because people are going to be in houses they once again cannot afford, and they will have to get out, and they will be declared, foreclosed on. That's what's going to happen. Good job. Kamalanomics is working. It's working. Remember, she said, Bidenomics is working. I'll play that for you. It's so funny. Anyway, your call now at 800-288-WBAP. Chime in right now. We got 3 minutes. 800-288-9227. There's time to pop you on. 800-288-9227. Lines wide open. How do you think price controls at grocery stores will end up working out? Who do you think the price would benefit from 25K first-time home buyers on a down payment? Hint, it's going to be people that are upper middle class that can afford to pay $3,300 for a mortgage. Hint, the average people that are middle class starting out or whatever do not have $3,300 for a mortgage. Number three, the other question, how do you think a down payment, the $25,000 down payment, will affect the housing market? Because now any first-time home buyer has instantly 25 grand to put down, but they still can't afford that payment unless they are upper middle class. This woman is doing exactly what Venezuela has done. I'm going to go into it. I'm going to use NPR's news about how bad Venezuela is, and it's because of price controls. And it leads to 4-hour lines in grocery stores. It leads to women and their children being robbed at gunpoint for their groceries. You know what that means? Dad, a mechanic, there's a story in this NPR story I read today, shocking. Dad, who's a mechanic, has to take 1 day a week off for groceries because otherwise his wife gets robbed at gunpoint from the thugs because there's no food for the thugs. There's no money for the thugs to steal. And Dad now loses one work day a week, and he now is at risk of losing his job as a mechanic. And but his wife can't go alone. People, if also somebody has to stay at home and guard the house because the groceries at home are being stolen too. That's all NPR's report today that I read. It actually wasn't today, but it was a recent report they did on this. Democrats, meanwhile, are now begging, this is insane, the Politico, a leftist publication, the Politico writing that Democrats openly and privately, I'll share their quotes next, are begging Kamala to not share her policies. They want her because they know they're going to cost her votes. They're literally saying this openly in the Politico today, a leftist publication. They are openly and privately, where they're anonymous because they don't want to, who wants to say the new possible president needs to stop sharing her policies and just let people vote for her not knowing what they're literally saying, let people vote for her not knowing what her policies are. Don't share your policies. It's insane. It tells you everything. This is profound. And when you have, you got to hear coming up next, I'm going to play you, I'm going to read the quotes of the Democrats who don't want her to share these policies because they know they're going to hurt her. Second of all, you're going to hear Kamala economist Gene Sperling, who literally cannot answer CNBC when they say, what is price gouging? Tell us what it is. Tell us what the definition is and tell us what the margin. He doesn't have an answer. He literally says, we can't tell you that. Second of all, CNN, you're going to hear them saying, this is bad. What does this even mean? There's no definition. 2 liberal CNN people that have their own shows. It's amazing. It's profound. This is panned by the New York Times, panned by 2 CNN hosts, by the Washington Post, and by Democrats who want her to hide this. This is profound. This is why she's going to lose. This kind of stuff. And more is going to be forced out. This is brilliant. This is why she's hiding. But you need to call in and you need to answer how you think price controls at grocery stores are going to end up working out. Who do you think that will benefit from $25,000 down payment for first-time home buyers that we're paying for? And how do you think a down payment will affect the housing market? A $25,000 handout that we pay for will affect the housing market. 800-288-WBAP. Chime in right now. Lines wide open. Can't wait to share what I've promised to share with you coming up at 8:16 on the Chris Kroc Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
First of all, nobody can explain what price gouging means. You've seen this kind of thing tried in lots of other countries before: Venezuela, Argentina, the Soviet Union, etc. It leads to shortages. It leads to black markets. The specific way this bill is written might actually increase prices.
Reasonable people would ask, what does that mean? What does that really mean? And how is the government going to be involved in it? Is this just a ploy? Because it sounds kind of like it.
That's incredible. That's CNN host Abby Phillips. I mean, that's insane that she's saying that. They're usually covering for Kamala, and they're actually telling the truth on this one. This is why Democrats are literally mad. They want her to hide her policies. Look at this from the Politico today. Democrats are rattled that they could lose the Senate, House, and presidential elections if Kamala is transparent about policy solutions to reverse administration's failures. Breitbart is covering the Politico story. I had the Politico story with me too, but she hasn't had an unscripted press conference for 26 days. She hasn't since she announced 26 days, and she has not done an interview with the press, let alone a press conference. 26 days. This is an intentional campaign strategy to hide this woman. So here we go. This is the quotes from the Politico today. Quote and this one's on the record, Representative Ann McLean Kuster from Democrat from New Hampshire. She doesn't need to negotiate against herself. We got the biggest possible tent right now. I don't think there's a real strong reason for her to try to weed out any points of view right now. There's more. Here's 2 separate Democrats, House Democrat anonymously to the Politico. The voters have very little knowledge about who she is, what her job. Hear this? The voters have very little knowledge about who she is, what her job has actually been. One battleground district House Democrats said they know Trump. They know what his policies are. They don't know Kamala. And so Kamala has a ton of room right now to define herself. They don't want her. Here's one more. By the way, 70% of registered Democrats that voted for Biden in 2020 are mostly in the dark. They have no idea what her policies are. 70% of Democrats don't know what her controversial and radical positions are, recent polls showed. Breitbart writes, the warnings appear to be sinking in. Harris campaign advisors worry publicly about releasing thorny details of their economic plan, quote unquote, because the specifics might backfire on the campaign. Several people familiar with the discussions told the Wall Street Journal. Instead, they expect small shifts in emphasis that highlight her resume and priorities. The Wall Street Journal reported that. Hide the Kamala. It's a game. Hide the Kamala. The media have not interviewed her on television since June 24th, before she announced. She has flip-flopped on 5 of her major radical left policies, such as socialized medicine and fracking, Breitbart writes. Here's the Washington Post, a quotation from the executive director of Pittsburgh Works Together. There's already uncertainty with just what does she believe? What would she do? Says this executive director of Pittsburgh Works Together, told the Washington Post on the ban of fracking. And if she doesn't support a ban of fracking, what is her energy policy plan? You gotta vote for her to let her win, but if she'll find out who she is, woo! Hide the Kamala! Let's play! Who wants to play a game? All right. I love this. This is fun. I mean, it shouldn't be fun for me to talk about this. I can't take this woman seriously. I love this. I love your candidate. You should be watching me on my Facebook Live. It's so funny. I'm having fun. You can see me laughing and dancing around. This is great. All right, where are you? I've asked you to call in. I've asked you 3 questions. How do you think price controls at grocery stores would end up working out? Who do you think would benefit from $25,000 for the first time home buyers on the down payment? It'll be upper middle class people that can afford the $3,300 mortgage payment, not people that could afford the Trump mortgage payment of $1,700 in his last day of office. And how do you think down payments would affect these $25,000 down payments that we would be paying part of our pockets? How do you think these down payments would affect the housing market? Well, every economist today on the left and the right, including the Washington Post, including CNN and all these other ones, it will drive up housing prices by $25,000 by the new gift being in there with for people that are selling homes. It will make an increase, a tremendous demand in buying houses, which will drive up the price of housing a lot. So this will destroy the housing market further, and the food prices are going to be rationing. There's going to be a lack of food, and there's going to be a lot less production, and the prices are going to end up increasing because there's going to be a scarcity of food supply. All right, now you got to hear this great CNBC cut today. Where is it? I might have to pull it up on my... you know what? It's one of those ones where I had it ready to send to my producer and I didn't send it to him. I do that all the time. I'm so busy. Here we go. I have a couple of them here for you, a couple gems. But I'm going to play the one coming up next for you. I don't have time to play anyways. On not CNBC. I've got one of those too, but there's another one with Gene Sperling. It is with CNBC. Gene Sperling, the economic advisor, formerly with Biden, now with Kamala, and he literally is asked directly by this morning on CNBC, what is your definition of price gouging? And he literally says, we don't have one. You can't do that. And then he moves on. It's amazing. He can't answer it. So their whole policy is on price gouging, and she says she's going to fix it, but she can't define it. Her economic advisor can't explain it, and he can't tell you what it is or what the numbers are, what the percentage is. It's amazing. Okay, I'm going to read you the details on the Washington Post. We got 3 lines open. Just destroying her idea today at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. 3 lines open. But I'm going to read you the details from the Washington Post, and I'm going to play that economic advisor of Kamala's today on CNBC not being able to give you any definition of what price gouging is. That's next at 33 after the hour. Chris Kroc, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
While we work on the housing shortage, my administration will provide first-time home buyers with $25,000 to help with the down payment on a new home. We can do this. We can do this. All to help more Americans experience the pride of home ownership and the financial security that it represents and brings. So that's my plan.
She also mentioned price gauging, she said. Did you hear that? That was a little earlier, I think. Hold on.
Our country has come a long way since President Biden and I took office. Many Americans don't yet feel that progress in their daily lives. Costs are still too high. As president, I will take on the high costs that matter most to most Americans, like the cost of food. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today than it did before the pandemic. Ground beef is up almost 50%. I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gauging on food.
Price gauging. What is price gauging? That's interesting. Okay, now the Washington Post said it's hard to exaggerate. This is today, Washington Post. This is insane. It's hard to exaggerate how bad this policy is from Kamala. A sweeping set of government-enforced price controls across every industry, not only food. Supply and demand would no longer determine prices or profit levels. Far off Washington bureaucrats would. She wants the FTC to take over Kroger in Ohio and tell them in Ohio, for example, at a grocery store, what the price they can charge for a gallon of milk. At best, this leads to shortages. At best, this will lead to shortages, black markets, and hoarding, among other distortions seen previous times in countries like that tried to limit price growth by fiat. There's a reason narrower price gouging, thanks to Kamala, you're making me say gauging. There's a reason narrow price gouging laws that exist in some U.S. states are rarely invoked, because they don't want to manipulate the markets and mess with them. At worst, Kamala's policy, so at best, it'll lead to shortages, black markets, and hoarding and other distortions that we've seen in play in previous other countries like Russia. Obviously, they're referencing Russia, Venezuela, and Cuba. At worst, the policy might accidentally raise prices. Woohoo! Kamalanomics is on! Woo! 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 It goes on, but I will. They said the grocery industry's net profit margin last year was 1.6%. That's price gouging. 1.6%, and she says nothing about Apple's 26%. The consumers started spending down their pandemic savings, which is exactly what I told you and what the Wall Street Journal told you. Increased made the inflation that Kamala signed off on. She personally injected 2.3 trillion TR by breaking the tie vote on 2 votes in the Senate that spent 2.3 trillion. They doubled what Trump spent in his administration, and he had COVID pandemic that hit. At least he had an excuse. Businesses were shut down for months and months. Her running mate locked people in their houses, put people in jail for defying the bans, and had created a snitch line for you to turn in your neighbor if you saw them having people over. This guy's just vile. If your opponent claims you're a communist, the Post says, maybe don't start with an economic agenda that can accurately be labeled communist as federal price controls. Woo! Woo, woo, woo! There's no liberal. Name a paper that's liberal, a national paper that's more liberal than the Washington Post. That's insane. Brilliant. Done. Well done, Kamala. You're working for us. Good job. Secretly, she's a double agent supporting Trump and Republicans. Okay, how do you think price controls at the grocery store will end up working out? Who do you think will benefit from a $25,000 first-time home buyer buyers on the down market? Down first-time home buyers getting $25,000 on a down payment that we would be paying for out of our pockets. And how do you think the down payments would affect the housing market? Well, it'll drive up the price by $25,000 of a house, and it'll shoot up the demand for houses, which will make housing prices even more expensive. Second of all, people that are middle class starting out will not be able to afford these houses because they're still going to have to come up with $3,300 a month under Kamala's prices that she created over 4 years. And she lockstep did this. And she said, Joe is close to me and there's no difference. There's no daylight. And she proved it. And she even appeared with Joe yesterday. Joe is her honey and Joe and her took our money. Here's her economic advisor on CNBC this morning. He literally cannot define price gouging.
I'm curious to talk a little bit more about zoning, but first I want to go back to price gouging at the grocery store. Can you tell me how VP Harris will define price gouging?
Well, we're not trying to do every detail, but let's note a couple of things. Census.
We're not trying to note every detail. We have no definition. We just want to pass a law. Good job. We love you, Kamala. I'm glad she's on the ticket. This helps us win the race. And by the time this gets out enough, I think we're going to win. Now, Pennsylvania starts voting in like 30 frickin' days. Every day they should be hitting this hard. Every day. Now, let's go to your phone call at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. There's one line open. Let us go to Stephen in Gatesville. Stephen, WBAP, hello.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, great talking to you. Your questions are interesting, and they clearly have failed to learn, study history. I mean, price controls don't work. It creates a black market and a huge underground of problems with, no one's buying stuff at the store. They're all going underground. Inflation. I mean, you add $25,000 you give me a $25,000 subsidy, they're going to raise the price of houses $25,000
because they can get it. Yeah.
This is not like rocket science. It's the definition of insanity. They are doing the same things that have been done and tried and failed, and they're hoping for a different outcome. This is purely to pablum for the folks who, price control, that's good because I don't have to pay, $5, I only pay $2.50. But it doesn't work. Look at Cuba. North Korea. I'm rattling off a bunch of countries.
Cuba.
Are we surprised by this? I mean, this is just silly. And if the opponents to this don't attack her personally, just go after the policy. The policy is terrible.
Yes.
Failure. Go after the policy. And that's the last night. I thought your conversation was great. Stop going after the personal attacks. Just stick to policy and what has failed and what doesn't work.
Because this is a brilliant move for us to win. It's brilliant is what it is. I appreciate your great call. Very, very intelligent call, Stephen. Keep it up. Please keep calling. I love your call tonight. Let's go to Sarah in DeLeon. Sarah, you're on WBAP. Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
Good. Oh, a farmer. You're a farmer. Go. This is great. Go.
I am.
Go.
I'm a farmer. My family's been farming since actually we were part of on Mayflower.
Wow.
And so I'm a 16th generation American farmer.
Wow.
But Chris, what most people don't know in the United States, because they've always had food on the table, there's less than 2% of our total population that's currently in farming. And the average farmer is 70 years old. I'm 75. And we lose half of our farmers every 10 years. And the reason being is we have all this gorgeous land. People think that's wonderful. But then the developers like our land because we've cleaned it all up. So they take all of the production farms out of farming, drive the prices of land up so high. So today, just to get into farming, by the time you buy a $500,000 tractor and combine, and then you buy, say, 500 acres, and then you start buying all of your other equipment, you better have a cool $50 million.
Wow.
To even start up in farming today.
You're obviously price gouging. Obviously. Look at you.
Yes, absolutely. And the sad fact is our kids don't want to work as hard as we did.
No, they don't.
The kids are leaving farming because they don't want to work 365 days a year, no days off. My cows, they have to be fed 365 days a year. And the other thing that really does surprise people, Chris, this may be a shock to you. Cattle are the largest animals that we raise in the United States. And 45% of their body weight goes into plastic and paint and wood production.
Wow.
And so people have no idea that there's something called stearic acid. That is the binding agent of all plastic and synthetic rubber tires. So without those animals, not only, if you eliminate cattle production, you're going to eliminate all plastics. You're going to eliminate housing production because I can't cut steel without tallow and make steel without tallow, and tallow comes from animals.
Yeah,
So,
these wild leftist socialist ideas, which have been tried in Venezuela, Cuba, and other countries, and Soviet Union, have failed wildly. And these people have no idea how they're affecting the economy. Kamala Harris never worked one day. Out of college and out of law school, she never worked one day in the professional field. McDonald's doesn't qualify for expertise. Like she likes to talk about that. That was in college.
Never gone hungry.
Yeah, I mean, in college, I did a job doing stocking and installations of home stereo stuff. And I ran the stockroom for that place. That's
Chris,
yeah.
one other surprising fact to the public is the amount of live cattle that are being shipped out of the United States every single day and Brazil into China.
Right.
They're building.
Well, I mean, we got to take care of our comment. Look, Tim Walz went to China has been there 30 times, and he took his honeymoon there, so he knows that our masters are more important than us, and Joe knows that, and I know Kamala will make sure that our masters are taken better care of than we are, much more. Sarah, God bless you. Sandra, and may God keep you and enrich you, and may you pass that farm along. I pray. I appreciate you so much. All right, we're going to talk to Bill in Prairieville and David in Fort Worth, plus your call. We got 3 lines open. Get on the horn. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. I will share more details from the Washington Post. They're ripping the shreds of Kamala's proposals today, and you're going to hear about from NPR the nightmare of what happens in Venezuela that Kamala wants to have happen here. It's brilliant for us to win. Thank you, Kamala, for what you did. I'm not kidding. 800-288-WBAP. No defenders today. No defenders on these proposals. That's very interesting. Interesting. I would love to have you. I'll put you to the front. You will be put on immediately if you can call in and say you want to defend us. I mean that. And it'll be a respectful dialogue. We've been having lots of them lately. And that's what this is all about. 800-288-WBAP. Anybody who disagrees with me gets put right to the front of the line every time, and I will never change that policy. A new guy was with me last night, and he was like, "Oh, there was somebody who disagreed with me," and he's like, "Well, and I'm like, he literally I got a phone, we went to break it. He goes, "You want me to ban that guy?" I'm like, "What? This is some new guy." He had no freaking clue. I'm like, that is the best call right there. The ones who disagree with me, dude. And I'm like, this poor guy had just no idea what he's doing, no idea. And you coached him right? Yesterday, you coached him on that? Yeah. I'm like, this is freaking nasty. Like, what the heck is it? These people get to the front, and you will never be banned as long as you're not a crazy nut job dropping F-bombs. That might get you banned permanently immediately. All right. Stand by. 3 lines open. Get on the horn. 800-288-WBAP. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. Hey, let's hear a little bit from CNN.
Picked up on today was this whole notion that price gouging, or gauging, as she called it, is what people are feeling. That is a total canard. This is not true. This is made up because they're trying to deflect attention from the actual inflation that has caused everything in your life to get more expensive. So they need the American people to believe something other than the truth. There is no price gouging. Grocery stores, these things, they operate on very slim profit margins. There is no gouging. There is just inflation. So to go out and say, I'm going to get the federal government involved in setting prices or capping prices or interrupting the flow of the free market economy, let me tell you something. If you like bread lines, product shortages, black markets, hoarding, if you want to recreate the happy economic conditions of The Walking Dead, Kamala Harris has a plan for you.
Woo! Contributor on CNN today. But you already heard Abby Phillips and one other CNN host today rip it to shreds a couple segments ago. A little bit more from the Washington Post, then we go to your call at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. How do you think price controls at grocery stores will end up working out? Who do you think would benefit from $25,000 from first-time home buyers on a down payment? How do you think down payment would affect the housing market? A little bit more from the Washington Post and how bad this is. What are these clear rules of the road or thresholds that determine when a price profit level becomes excessive? Her economic advisor today on CNBC literally could not define what it was. I played that for you last segment. The memo doesn't say. The campaign didn't answer questions I sent seeking clarification, the Washington Post said. Normally, the government doesn't like colluding with the grocery stores to set the prices. That's because price fixing is already illegal, and it should be. Harris' economic advisors either are too confused or too lazy to tell the difference. They don't seem to know the history of these kinds of policies, and apparently haven't thought very hard about what would make markets more competitive or improve the lives of voters. They don't seem terribly familiar with what's happening to grocery prices, where the battle against inflation has, believe it or not, pretty much already been won. That's false. But on Wednesday, grocery prices in July were up a measly 1% from a year ago. This woman is complaining about 1% increase from a year ago. What a disgrace. Let's go to Bill in Prairieville. Bill, you are on WBAP. What do you got?
Hey, maybe you don't remember Jimmy Carter, but I do.
Yes. Gas rationing.
Gasoline.
Yes.
You had to wait 2 hours in line
4.
to get 8 gallons.
I heard a woman say 4 yesterday from the 70s. From the 70s, she was on the news.
Right. I'm thinking like in 71, 72.
Okay.
And, I mean, gas is high now, but you can get it.
Yeah.
Okay? And it was terrible. And then people started hoarding gas because you'd buy the 8 gallons even if you didn't need it.
And then you could sell it too if you want to sell it too. You could sell it for more, for an extra buck.
But that's a typical example of price controls.
Amen. Great call. That's why the 1992 poll of the American Economic Association, 93% of their members said it reduces quality and quantity of housing when you introduce price controls. Let's go to David in Fort Worth. David, WBAP. Hi.
Hello, sir. Hello. How you doing?
Good.
Listen, it's retired military, Afghanistan, Iraq. But
thank you for your service.
And I just wanted to let you know where I'm coming from, and this just really aggravates me. But look, first off, you've got somebody that's got the IQ of plant life, and we got to take that into consideration first.
Don't say that. No offense, but don't say that because that's a personal attack. Stick to the policy and how it's a disaster.
Excuse me. The 25,000. What that's going to do is you're going to give a home to somebody that cannot probably pay the note on it. So you're once again going to have a crash in a bubble.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And then housing, you're going to have a flip upside down in that whole thing.
Yeah.
With the price gouging.
That's what 2 Fox Business hosts said today. That's exactly right. I got to roll, but great call. And please call in again, and thank you for your service, your wonderful service. Unlike Tim Walz, who lied in front of Gold Star family face-to-face and said that he was in combat in Afghanistan, that he fought in combat in Operation Enduring Freedom. And that was Joey Jones, who both of his legs were blown off in Afghanistan, was on Fox News. He raised his voice quite loudly at that. He said, I was there. He was madder than hell. He paid for it by losing his legs. Next, why Democrat lawmakers are giving Harris a pass. Actually, no. We're going to pause on this. We're going to get to this next. But right now at 9, as promised, open bathrooms at Texas Elementary School. Wait till you hear about this. It could be coming to yours, and I think it will be, and I'll tell you why. And you'll hear about what parents are saying about it and how bad it is and scary it is next.